Hey, welcome. Welcome to AI in the Lot 2026. There are 2,460 people that came this year. That means there is gravity around what we're doing on the stage, what we're doing in this room, and around Culver City. People are coming and showing up to the room. I'd be remiss not to mention the people responsible for this gravity. My co-founders, Todd, Ian, our lead producer, Phil, our title partner, Amazon MGM Studios. There's some great people there, Rachel, Christian, Albert. They're close to our hearts because they like doing very difficult things that are complex, like turning Culver City into a center of gravity for AI media. And there's one other very large entity involved, which is the literal city of Culver City, who's an official sponsor of AI on the Lot. I'd like to thank Dan O'Brien, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and the mayor, Freddie Puzza, who have been very supportive, helping us turn this into a center of gravity. And really what that means is people want to show up to the room. And this is not a room where you need a particular last name, or you had to go to a particular college, or you need to have a particular type of personality. The really cool thing about AI is that if you have the willpower and the patience to sit down and try to articulate what you would like to make, chances are you can do it. You can make it. Now, there's going to be a lot of very interesting people that you'll hear from today. You'll hear from Paul Schrader in a moment. You'll hear from Gareth Edwards, the director. Thomas Middleditch will do improv against AI later today at 5 p.m. And you'll be able to hear Jason Fisher from Stage Runner and Dan O'Brien talk about how we can make LA an economic center of AI media. But these are the people that help us get people to the room. What I really want to encourage you to do is talk to the other people that decided to show up. Many of these people could be a co-founder for you, a partner, a collaborator. And that's really the point of AI in the Lot in this conference, is we really want you to find other people that are interested in this space. And this is kind of a lofty goal for a conference, but we hope by going to workshops, hearing people speak, meeting people, we legitimately hope that you may change your lives in small but meaningful ways by simply meeting the right person. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Paul Schrader. He needs no introduction. He's a longtime collaborator of Martin Scorsese. He wrote some of the most important movies in the history of cinema. He's also a director and directed many great films. And what I really like about him is that he's incredibly open-minded, as any artist should be, about the human condition and what he can do to tell a story about it. And it is always, as the one who programs all the speakers at the conference, it is always my worry that we will only program one or two different types of points of view. So I'm thrilled to have Paul join us today because he has a completely original view of how an artist can use AI to tell stories and articulate their vision of the world. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for day 2. Mr. Paul Schrader.
So, hello again. I have been selected this conference's AI designated punching bag. I think that's why I was invited. I got that sense when I posted on Facebook a week ago the fact that I was coming here, and I asked if any fellow writers, because my Facebook community has a lot of creative types, and I got a tsunami of responses, like 500 in 2 days, and a few people actually addressed the question. And quite a large number of writers are using AI. But there was also very much of a backlash, a lot of negative comments, and some of them were, in fact, insulting. It was as if I had shot the family dog. So yes, this is a controversial subject in the creative community. And why is that? You know, traditionally, the arts and technology have gotten along quite well, going from the lost wax techniques the Greeks used to make sculpture, the printing press, up to synths and electronic music. Movies, in fact, are the artistic response to moving images. So that art has traditionally energized technology. We're just waiting for the next technological twist. We've got plenty of old wine. We're just looking for the new bottles. And every technological twist is that. But this one seems a little different. It has spooked a lot of people. And I think the reason lies in, you've all known Harari, the Israeli author of *Sapiens* and other books, pointed out that AI is the first technology created by humankind that is not solely dependent on humankind for instructions. We've never created a tool, whether it be a hammer or a forge, that could do anything other than what we instructed it to. Now we're creating a technology that doesn't necessarily align its own interests with ours. It is possible for an AI program to say, what you're proposing is not in my best interest, and I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do something else. This is not as implausible as it sounds, and some examples were recently shown in a recent documentary called, terrible title, called AI, the Apocalyptimist. Came out 2-3 weeks ago. And you started to see that we're not just talking about a new machine. We're not just talking about a new bottle for the wine. It's something we don't quite know what it is yet, and it's changing so fast. I was listening to these things yesterday, and one person said, you know, what's going to happen for a year from now? I don't know what's going to happen in a month from now. So I could see a sense of the fear in other artists' eyes. We as artists are barely keeping a step ahead of the monster. You know, Dr. Frankenstein, the monster is breathing right down his back. The musicians are feeling it, I think, first. You know, if you've watched any of these true crime recreation shows on TV, do you think really human beings are composing that music? That's not human music. That's just programmed music. A machine can do it faster, cheaper, better. Why is some poor guy sitting there on a synthesizer doing this pattern when all he has to do is feed it in? And now I don't even know this for a fact. I'm just looking at it as an artist and saying, who's going to compose this? Or the same thing for editors. There was a group here yesterday. There was a show and tell segment at 2:00, and they had a program, a re-editing program, where they could use a certain material. In this case, it was a crime recreation, a murder, and re-edit it. The program would re-edit it for different platforms. So you didn't have to go and hire an editor and say, I would like a 5-minute version of this one centering on law enforcement. I'd like a 10-minute version centering on the victim. No, you don't have to hire an editor to do that. I mean, AI can do that for you. And on the plane yesterday, I was looking at Wicked. I was looking at, why are we paying extras $180 a day when they look so plastic? And we not only pay them $180 a day, we have to clothe them, and we have to feed them, and we have to deal with their complaints when it gets too hot or too wet. Why don't we just make them? And we can, and we will. You know, we're already doing crowd magnification, where if I wanted to shoot this crowd, I'd shoot this group here and then replicate it all over and change some of your clothes and stuff like that. But now, I don't even need this group here. I can just make this whole crowd. But I've felt, unlike the musicians, as a writer and a director, I felt so much secure because AI does not create, it combines. So if AI wants an idea, it has to go to where that idea already exists and combine it. Now, you could make the argument, that's all artists do anyway, and to a degree that's a valid argument, but you still have to come up with something. And so I was the content creator. You know, like I said, first time I heard this term was yesterday, and I heard it about 24 times. I'm no longer a writer or a director, I'm a content creator. I decided to investigate what AI would think of me. So I went on ChatGPT and asked it a simple question. I did a simple instruction, actually. Write me a Paul Schrader script idea. And I got an 8-page response in about 5 minutes. Less than that, 2 minutes. A solitary man with a frustrated, ritualized life, guilt, spiritual rot, profession, diary voiceover, one catastrophic moral decision, and then it proposes the project. It's called the Collection Agency. Here's an original idea built around Schrader's machinery. The Collection Agency. A former Catholic anti-porn crusader in his 70s now works remotely as a debt collector for a company that buys medical debt from dying hospitals. Every night, he works from a cheap business hotel room somewhere in America and calls strangers and pressures them into making payments that they cannot afford. He records obsessive audio diaries in an old cassette player. His life is aggressively controlled. He eats 1 meal a day, wears identical gray shirts, stays at anonymous hotels, and watches live stream church services without sound. One night he recognizes a debt collector's name. Years earlier, when he ran a Midwestern family values organization, he helped cover up the suicide of a teenage girl being exploited by a debtor to his church. The new daughter is the suicide's daughter. So here we go, now the plot starts to kick in. Now in her 20s, she's an amateur cam performer and a rideshare driver. Instead of collecting the debt, he begins to secretly pay it off while surveilling her online with increasing obsession. He believes he is seeking redemption, but gradually it becomes clear he's trying to force himself into a narrative where he can become a hero. The girl discovers who she is, the old crusader who once fought pornography as sin must descend into the online sex economy. The movie becomes a spiritual revenge thriller where the protagonist can't tell the difference between repentance and vanity. Final image, after committing an act of extreme violence, he attends Easter Mass He takes communion despite no longer believing in it. The priest pauses before giving the wafer in his mouth. Cut to black. Not bad. Not bad. When I'm toying around with an idea, and it takes a while to gestate, usually about 4 to 6 months, you start to have an idea, you're telling it to yourself, and you're playing around with the possibilities. Then you start outlining it. Then you start telling it to others, re-outlining it. And the idea grows and becomes strong and then wants to be written. Or the opposite happens, which is also a good thing. The idea weakens and you realize you don't need to waste your time writing a script that's not going to sell. And so that, I say, takes about a half year before I get to the point where I'm ready to write this. AI, my new friend, ChatGPT, was just we'll call him Alex Indigo. How's that? I asked Alex, what is the name of the leading character? Here are some options. Give me 10 options. Martin Vale, Calvin Kessler, Thomas Wren, Elias Mercer, David Hartner, Paul Grady, Leonard Pike, Nathan Cole, Walter Finn, Richard Foss. These are all good names. It chooses Kevin Costner because Kevin lines up with Calvin, and Kessler sounds corporate and Midwestern. I actually, the one I liked best was Elias Vane. And the reason it chose Elias Vane is because Elias aligns with Old Testament values, Elijah, and Vane is something that moves with the wind. And so I thought, that's a good name, Elias Vane. I'm going to use that. Well, other possible script names, other than the collection agency, which was its choice. No, not mine. The Last Honest Man, Stations of the Night, Season Without Mercy, The Confessor. That's in the category of austere, religious, a corporate category, if I want to go that way. The collection agency, which was the one it chose. Settlement, terms of service, default, late fees. And then I also suggested Lonely Man titles, which is the title of the character, The Night Collector, The Debt Collector, Man in Transit, blah, blah, blah. And then it had another category title, I want something more extreme, more hard Schrader energy. An Exit Without a Witness, Diary of a Debt Collector, The Sin of Mercy, The Violence of Grace, American Penance, Conversation Tape Number 7. These are all good titles. What's the writer to do? I thought they weren't going to get me. ChatGPT has plans for my profession. The next thing I asked for was the opening scene. And I was predictable. It just bing, bang, boom, it starts, And what I realized when I was reading the opening scene of, what's it called, the collection agency? And I realized it had been reading my scripts. In a matter of a minute, it had read everything I've ever written, and that's been online. And I have a certain way of describing, if I say, night exterior, a flickering lamp bulb illuminates, it's writing the script for me, and it's doing just what I do. Other people write, describe the houses on the road, describe everything. But I just do one kind of mood-setting sentence. So I realized that it's not only writing the script I asked it to, it's writing it in my tongue. Interior airport bathroom, close-up razor buzzes above a scalp, hair falls into sink, man's hands, then boom, this is him. And then then he presses record, March 11th, Phoenix Airport, Marriott, room 612. He speaks quietly, 3 settlements tonight. one refusal, one disconnected number. A woman in Dayton cried. I muted her while she cried. He opens the bathroom door. Not bad. Now, this was all done in a rather short time. I could have gone on, and I could have written the whole movie. On another idea, I wasn't asked it for a sequential breakdown. And boom, it had the idea before, like it has this idea of the former evangelical. And it started giving me a sequential breakdown, which is a list of everything that happens in the movie. And usually between 42 and 48 things happen in a film. I mean, really happen. And it could have written that script. I could be holding the collection agency. And I could send it out. I know what response I would get. This is second-rate Schrader. I'm absolutely sure I'd get that response, and it is. But it's going to be a first-rate Schrader soon enough. And it's already first-rate NCIS, you know. So what comes next? I'm going to turn 80 next month. So I don't have much to fear. I'm going to be able to ride, into that cinematic sunset on that old broken horse we call movies. But it's not going to work for you. That horse won't hunt no more. And you're going to have to find another way. Or what about my assistant, who's 32, has spent the last 10 years learning about an artistic process which is becoming irrelevant. What do we have film schools for? If I were running a film school, the first thing I would do is go out and hire a bunch of techies, because that's the way you're going to keep your students. You're not going to keep them by showing them old movies. They want to figure out how to make a living. What is the tip of the spear? And we're starting to see it very quickly. Tribeca just announced an AI film on violence in Iraq with a $2,000 budget to make the whole film, and it will be shown in the Tribeca Film Festival. Albert Chung, who I spoke with yesterday here at Amazon Prime, they hope to have something out by the end of the year. But that won't be entirely AI, that will be hybrid AI. If you heard him yesterday, he was very, very cautious about getting into these copyright issues. And therefore, if it's hybrid AI, then you already have the likeness purchase, like you have Sam Worthington in Avatar. I think that it is not to try to get somebody to buy something that you're making. Get them to buy something they've already bought. I'm talking about original content, but go back into the vault. There are a lot of people, maybe some people in this room, who have seen every episode of I Love Lucy. I've maybe seen them once or twice. They would love to see a new one. Well, make them a new one. That's easy enough to do. And you'll be the real Fred and the real Desi, and you just have to find a writer who can write in a 50s style. Wait a second, I know a writer who can write in a 50s style. His name is Alex Indigo. So My Three Sons, Love Boat. I think that if I was in this business to make money, I think that's probably right where I dust off those old IPs and those copyrights, because that's an instant seller. You have a new episode of Bonanza. And then I don't think the real future of AI commercially is in all this flash, all these monsters. And that's just jacked up special effects on steroids. That's not anything, that's not great storytelling. So we can make all these super monsters, and so we can recreate Egypt and recreate ancient Rome. We could recreate them before. We're just doing it now at a price. What happens, the real tip of the spear is when we can create an AI protagonist, not a hybrid. And that movie makes money. When you do the new Clint Eastwood, but you don't say the words Clint Eastwood to AI, you just describe, and he comes up with the Clint Eastwood. And Clint goes, wait a second, you're stealing my image. I said, no, I just described somebody who was so tall and this weight and this kind of gravitas. You know, there's a lot of people who look like you, Clint. And the movie comes out, and us carbon-based fools spend our money empathizing and caring about silicon-based creations. And they want the next one. They want the follow-up one. Well, we know where that actor lives, and he works for nothing. And he works at 24 hours a day, and he's available right now. Well, let's hire him. Let's make that. How long will it take? Well, about 3 months, I would say. Okay, let's make him. I think that's probably what you're going to see. This is where I was disagreeing with Albert Chung yesterday, because he's very afraid of leaving the hybrid model. He says he doesn't think it's going to happen. I think he's just afraid. I think it is going to happen, and I think we are going to have non-hybrid protagonists in the arts. I may even be alive long enough to see it. So yes, so we're going to do an episode of I Love Lucy. So Ethel goes to the doctor. She doesn't feel well, and they screw up the medication at the pharmacy, and they give her a laxative instead of a cough syrup. And she comes home and finds Fred has now decided to fix the plumbing in the bathroom. And she now is bloated with laxative. So she runs over to Lucy's house, and Lucy is entertaining some of Desi's powerful friends and clients at a fancy thing, and Ethel bursts in and bolts straight into the bathroom and makes all these gross noises while Lucy is serving canapes. I'm in. I'm telling you a story. You know, I just have to figure out, will AI be able to think in the way I just think? I suspect it will. So yeah, and I've been working on an AI film. I had a script I wrote some years ago. I was going to show a clip, but that gets another thing. But I'm working with a Gioia Rosa. And we're doing it together, and it's a very interesting experience because, usually when you make a movie, it's all spread out all over, different locations, different days, different actors, different days. Here you do it linearly. You just go through, do the first scene, do the credit scene. And if you learn something on scene 3, you can go back and make a scene on 1. So you do the pre-credit sequence, and I said to Joao, I said, I think I wrote that a little short. I think there should be one more exchange in there. Well, we didn't have to call the actors back. We didn't have to redo that set. 5 minutes, I'm out of here. We just added it back in. The same thing goes if you want AI is pretty good about finding high angles and tracking shots. But maybe you see a high angle that it missed, and you just tell it, and it'll create that high angle for you. And I had a character in this one. I thought he was a little old, and I said, I'd like him 10 years younger. And Joel gave that instruction, and there he was, 10 years younger. Now he looked like Russell Crowe. That is, now that is something I'm doing just because it tickles me. But a lot of people are going to be doing it for real, and my time is up, and I am gone.